On today's edition of the Rock Sound Rundown, we say goodbye to the Prince of Darkness. Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76. We'll be looking back at an incredible life, an incredible legacy, and of course, looking back on that amazing final show back to the beginning in Birmingham just a few weeks ago. It's all here on the latest Rock Sound Rundown. Hi guys, James Wilson-Taylor here. Welcome to another edition of the Rock Sound Rundown. Very bittersweet this week, of course. We have lost a giant of the world of metal, arguably the most famous figure to ever come out of this scene. Ozzy Osbourne has passed away at the age of 76. Again, just a few weeks on from that incredible farewell event in Birmingham back to the beginning. We're going to be looking back at his life, his career, the amazing legacy that he leaves behind, not just with his own music, but also the huge amount of bands that he helped nurture and foster within the wider metal scene. I'm joined as ever by two of our esteemed writers, my colleagues here, Jack Rogers and Maddie Howell. Jack, I want to start with you. You wrote a wonderful tribute essay that I really encourage all of our viewers to go and read over on the website there. But I think the thing you nailed on the head is that there is no superlative too big for this man. Like, he was a figure bigger than this entire scene combined, put together. He really did define in many ways this entire genre of heavy music.
I feel for a lot of people as well that their connection to heavy music is Ozzy, even though you have your Metallicas, your Maidens, so many icons which are around there, but like people's connection and songs that they know with guitars, with any sort of like heaviness is Ozzy. Like even with Sabbath, there are so many iterations of Sabbath. Sabbath were a band for 55 years, and yet it always goes back to Ozzy. Yeah. There is so much that can be said of what this scene is, what it's become, how people have found their way into it, how people have, fallen in love with different parts of this. And it all just goes back to the kind of belief and passion of just one man, which is crazy to say because this is such a crazy ecosystem.
Yeah.
That one person could make such a difference and continue to all the way up to the very end. Yeah. Like up until a few weeks back. But like from the beginning to now, it's all Ozzy. And
it's mad, yeah.
And I was saying to Maddie earlier, I'd come this week's reminding me that back in school there was our version of World Book Day, whatever that was, it might have been Meet Your Heroes. I dressed as Ozzy.
Yes, good man.
And I asked my mum about it, and neither of us remember how we got a wig. Or where we got a wig from, or why we had a wig. But yeah, as everyone else was like doing, whoever else, heroes. Yeah. Like I was just like, the man who sang Children of the Grave.
I like to think it wasn't the Heroes Day and was the World Book Day, like you're implying. Yeah. I want you next to like James and the Giant Peach.
Yeah,
Ozzy there.
Like how now people dress up as Phil Foden and
yeah. There you go.
I was like, here's one of the many books.
Yeah. It works. It tracks.
But yeah, even back then, just the fact that as someone who's so connected to this as well, like, and I felt that like he's been a big part of my life. The fact that I can talk to anyone and they have a story or they have something of that thing is the magic of this. I mean,
yeah, magic's kind of the word, isn't it, Maddie? Because like this scene has, a lot of figureheads, obviously incredibly recognizable icons throughout metal. We've already mentioned some of them already who've been inspired by Ozzy, but I don't think it's arguable that there is but one Prince of Darkness. Do you know what I mean? That figurehead was there, not just throughout music, but wider pop culture. Like, the amount of people I've seen talking about it, friends of mine who are not into this type of music at all, who are like, oh, God, Ozzy, what a shame. He really did surpass onto this wider plane, like across all of pop culture, really.
Yeah, I've seen like people I went to school with posting like screenshots of like quotes from the Osbournes and shit, and it's like, he touched so many lives, and I think the big thing about it is, obviously now we're talking about him like he was a god, and like, yeah, I mean, I get it. He was like an absolute mammoth of music, an absolute mammoth of everything, but the thing about Ozzy is he was so human, like, and that was like such a big part of why people connected to him on every level, like in his music, watching him on TV, like, he was flawed, he was human, and he was proud to kind of show that. Like, he wrote songs about his addictions, he wrote songs about mental health. He never kind of hid away from that. And I think someone who is able to just sort of say, yeah, like, I'm a guy, and at the end of the day, you can put me on whatever pedestal you want to put me on, and that's fine. But I'm still a guy, I'm still a human being, and I still kind of have all these feelings and these thoughts that you do. And that's what makes him so special, I think. Because for so many people, that's why they get into music, especially this scene. Like, just knowing someone feels the same way you do, knowing someone has those flaws, knowing someone is kind of not perfect.
Yeah.
And I think as a celebrity, especially to the level that Ozzy was, it's easy to kind of put on that persona that everything's perfect, that your life's peachy fucking like. But yeah, he wasn't perfect, and he was very kind of happy to own that, and that's a special thing. I think.
Yeah, authenticity and honesty
yeah.
to it.
How often do people of that stature who are that well known continue to wear their blue collar working class roots
very
on
true.
their sleeve?
Exactly. Yeah.
Because he found Sabbath through putting a notice up in a Birmingham music shop. It said Ozzy Zig needs gig, and that was less like him wanting to do music. It was also like a cry for kind of like, I need normality,
a purpose.
I need something more than just being a thief, a scallywag. Like, I'm gonna go down the wrong path. And obviously, you know, the thing about Sabbath is that it was Tony Iommi's band. He wrote the riffs, he was the boss. Geezer Butler wrote a lot of the lyrics for those early songs, especially, you know, these terrifying, scary songs about demons in your mind and overcoming things. Like the same even with something like War Pigs, which continues to be like even more relevant now than it was back then, and that's saying something. But it was Ozzy channeling what he was going through that made those songs what they are, even more so. And there's not many other people that could do that it was him going, I need this, and I'm glad that I have someone who I can share my pain with and do that. And then that's continued over into his solo stuff. Yeah. Like, arguably, his solo stuff is more famous than a lot of the early Sabbath stuff.
Very true, you know,
Like,
very true.
And it's finding people and gravitating towards people who understood what he was, which he did with Randy Rhoads. Yeah. On those first two solo albums, he found someone who knew how to get what was out of his head. Like Crazy Train was on that first one, and it's massive. And when you slow that song down, it's like, this is a man struggling. This is a man who is like kind of laughing in the face of his own kind of like imminent demise. At that point, because it's like he's just, and when as that continued, that like, you know, as people saw it, and he became even more vulnerable and kind of like, you know, knew that he was pushing the limits of it, and the thing which was saving him was kind of like that Sharon was the anchor, because he'd be long gone without having family and having those things which he gained afterwards. But to strip away those things and not see just like a guy who does Crazy Eyes and like bit the head off a bat or did all these things, or like it's a very real normal, as Maddie said, like a normal man who just wants to exist within this.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, isn't it? It's like Ozzy's the showman there always, and you're right with the big outlandish statements and the outfits, and genuinely very funny as well, which I think we'll come on to as well. Like really, really genuinely entertaining throughout both his live show and just in real life. But also, I think it's the moments where John shines through. The real man shines through. That's the things that people have been relating to. That's the things that people have been connecting to. That struggle, like you say, very kind of typical story of that time in the UK, particularly in kind of industrial towns and a lot of towns in the north of England. But it's just amazing to see what he's meant, not just to the musicians we've been talking to, but also the fans who've really picked up on the personal stories in a long way, and it's actually kept with them throughout their whole lives, and particularly in the city of Birmingham, which we should mention. You know, I remember being back there for the Back to Beginning show a few weeks back. It's not just about that one night. It was everywhere, and it's things that are everywhere. There's murals that were there permanently. That bench that obviously is now adorned with tributes was there the whole time, and has always been, you know, a marker for tourists coming into the city. They had a giant bull structure in the famous Bullring train station public vote. Of course, the town's going to name it Ozzy, right? It's like he is such a part of the furniture in that particular city. I think it's actually probably a very good point to check in. Actually, we had our reporter Yasmin up in Birmingham recently chatting with some of the fans of Black Sabbath as they gathered around the mural, around the bench, to kind of share some of their stories about what Ozzy has meant to them over the years. So let's take a look at some of those messages.
What did Ozzy Osbourne mean to me? What did Ozzy Osbourne mean to these people here? This is what Ozzy Osbourne meant.
A man, a myth, a legend.
An icon, legend, somebody to follow, somebody to look up to.
Working class lads done good, you know, industrial town, Ozzy went to prison, that sort of thing. There's redemption arcs.
Just this idol to me. Oh no, there's levels, there's your legends, there's your heroes, but he was an idol.
I love how he stands for the weirdos, the outcasts.
All my favourite bands wouldn't have existed without him, so it's a lot the world owes to Ozzy, I think, more than most people realise as well.
I think the city owes a lot to Ozzy Osbourne and to Black Sabbath.
Without like discovering like Black Sabbath and Ozzy Osbourne, my music taste would be vastly different to what it is now.
I grew up around it and it really changed the way I sort of saw music and saw life.
Ozzy Osbourne and Black Sabbath meant quite a bit to me and my family growing up. We were more or less raised on the music of Black Sabbath in our household. The music of Black Sabbath will live on in me and my family and all the fans globally, worldwide.
Another good point as well to mention is the sheer amount of tributes that are coming in from musicians, some of which you'd expect. You know, people like Metallica shared a very, very touching message yesterday, and you know, that's a band that obviously toured with Sabbath, with Ozzy back in the day, and have very much been nurtured by that scene. But, you know, when you're an artist that then also is sparking tributes from, I guess, on the pop stage, people like Lady Gaga, people like Coldplay playing songs and stuff, Kermit the Frog dropping a letter, why not? Why not? I mean, great, love it.
That was the waterworks.
Yeah. Was that the one that got you, really?
Well, just like, there's just something about that, again, where it's just like, I mean, the Muppets make me cry a lot.
Well, sure, I get you.
Like, there's just something about them that just sets up, but like, this gentle green frog saying the nicest words about it. And like, again, the fact that a puppet can do something that human as well.
That's a great way of wording it. You're right.
And speak like that, and it's just like, it feels like everyone in this industry gets it and has that connection. But like, to get even more otherworldly as that, to go into the other kind of icons that are there, and like, again, it normalizes them, I guess, as well, because when they're meeting, they're like, well, this is a legend of it. But then when he was just himself in front of these people, you know, in front of these stars as much as anything, and they go, oh, well, it sheds away any sort of, you know, pretense or kind of like ego.
Again, you mentioned in the piece you wrote, I've seen this clip doing the rounds on socials a lot, with the first time he met Paul McCartney. I think it was backstage at the Howard Stern show, if anyone wants to look it up. But like, his first time meeting Paul McCartney, quite late in his career, I think it was like early 2000s. He was a Beatles fan from the beginning, was Ozzy, and to see him humbled immediately and a little nervous in the way that we've actively seen footage of some of the biggest rock stars that we've grown up worshipping when they meet Ozzy. It was just so interesting. He was always just that. He never viewed himself as that kind of, you know, figure that we're all talking about here. I think he was very much able to separate that character from that. But I think what's interesting about the kind of tributes coming in and bands talking about is you can almost split it in two. You've got the bands there that were directly inspired musically, obviously, and maybe became friends with him and went out on tour and all this stuff. And then you've got the Ozzfest of it all, right? And we've got to come on to this, because without Ozzy, I think we wouldn't have the careers of, not just musically, but just in terms of the actual careers of System of a Down, Linkin Park, Limp Bizkit, I would count Korn in there, I would count Incubus in there, I would count Slipknot in there. All these bands that were nurtured by him basically carrying a heavy scene on his back for a long time, when it wasn't cool, when it wasn't having the commercial moment that they went on to have. That's a kind of amazing aspect to this, and I think something that will really, really live on, right?
Yeah, big time. I think the special thing about Ozzy is one, he was human, but two, he was just a huge fan of this.
Yeah.
Like, he just absolutely loved, like we mentioned, the Beatles. He loved rock music, he loved metal music, he loved this thing that he founded and that he sort of nurtured into his baby. And more than that, he loved everyone else who loved it. Like, he just open-armed everyone, just wanted to bring this little family together. And I just think it's so special that he never lost that. Like, if you watch videos of him, like, meeting Yungblud, you can tell, like, that's made me well up so many times. Just, you can tell that he loves the absolute bones of that kid. And it's not a case of anything sort of, like, superficial. He just sees a lot of himself in him, and he sees that kind of, like, kid who just loves this music and wants to make a change in the world somehow. And I think you never lose that. If you're that kind of person, if you're that kind of person who has forged their entire life on rock and roll, on making something, you never lose that. And I think some people maybe try and lose it. Some people maybe try and act as if they've lost it. I think but he's just that's what he is.
I think some people are ashamed of it as they get later on as well, that they have got bigger than this. But like, it's even when you see Ozzy, like, there was Corey Taylor talked about it when Slipknot were playing that second stage in 1999 at Ozzfest, which Ozzy would go in, talk, and he said something along the lines of, so there's 9 of you, I want to be number 10. And it's like, at this, like, just that completely egoless, like, kind of corny sort of approach to these things that, like, you know, and that's what he's always been in the way that he talks to everyone. That it's like, he's just like, to them, that's like, oh my God, I can't believe he's saying that about us. But to him, he's like, I want to be a part of this. Like, I want to actually, like, you see tours and, you know, things that are put together, which so often that there isn't a connection between the name at the top and who's below. But like, you look at, like, not just these big bands, but like, you look at the Ozzfest lineups, that like, there's bands like on the second stage and stuff across the years, like Dragon Force are there, the Red Chord, like Black Dahlia Murder, like, you know, Static X, Cold Chamber, before, like, at the core of new metal, at the core of the new wave of American heavy metal, at the start of deathcore, all of these things, Ozzy was searching these things out and finding them and giving them that platform.
Yeah, which is amazing.
And you know that he's listening, you know that he's curating this, and then at the end of it, you know, playing, you know, a set for himself or whatever. I saw again that, you know, with on the subject of System of a Down, they played Sabbath's last show in 1999, which was on New Year's Eve at the end of a load, which was like, and I saw something which was about that this was System on their first album, and they also did a cover of Snowblind in their sets before, and, you know, the Sabbath guys came into the room and said, you need to do the cover, like, open it, and they're like, that's sacrilege, we can't do that at your show, like, this is your song, and they're like, you need to, like, and this nurturing of, like, even in the 90s, that kind of attitude, because with Sabbath, again, there was a lot of tension, a lot of like arguments, a lot of, you know, kind of like wounds having to be healed time and time and time again. But at that point, like, knowing that that's filtered through, you know, from Ozzy through the other guys, to be like, well, this is a young band who looks at us in at this way, like, we need to let them have these moments. How often do you see that? But that respect still being there, that it's like, you know, we'll let you do it, but we know that you're gonna nail it. And it's like that across the board. And even how Ozzy continued that into his tours recent, like, you know, he wasn't able to do his final tour because it kept on getting cancelled, but like, the work that he did with Dom, you know, the work that he's done with Post Malone, the things he's selected, the people he's brought into his fold off the back of how Ozzfest was as well, that which was just like so necessary for like the continuation of this scene, that he was always searching out for those things and supporting people who got him. 100%. Wanted to be a part of what he was about.
I mean, we mentioned Dom. I mean, it leads very, very nicely, of course, into Back to the Beginning, which was just such a surreal and joyous and now very bittersweet day. But, I mean, before we get on to Ozzy and Sabbath, like, that lineup, I mean, I remember when the poster came out, we all lost our minds, right? I mean, it was absolutely crazy. But then to see it actually in action, you know, we've been working on a piece about this for the mag, and obviously it's going to take a slightly different tone now, but chatting with like some of the organizer team, people like Andy Coppin, he was saying, like, you know, I think the first act they booked was Metallica, and once they had Metallica, everyone said yes immediately. I think I was like the first people they rang, and they were like, well, obviously yes, and then it just made life incredibly easy. But even apparently in the weeks leading up to it, you would get more people ringing up at that point and being like, is there anywhere we can maybe dive on for one little song, which is how those super groups, I guess, just got bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. But in terms of those acts, I want to mention Dom up top, because I know it's one that's had a lot of attention on the internet already, but that is the definition of taking your moment and owning it. That is the definition of delivering a performance that pays tribute to someone who we all know is your absolute number one musical hero and a longtime friend at this point. But also, I just love the fact that it turned some heads. I love the fact that he came out there. It was still unannounced, by the way. Like, we should say that it wasn't announced. Yeah. We knew he was coming out, but like, it was a surprise to the majority of the audience there, to do Changes, one of the biggest songs, and to really stun an audience in the way that he did. That was a real special moment. I feel like that was the final moments of kind of Ozzy passing, maybe not passing on the baton. I'm sure Don would refute that claim himself, but like, definitely that last arm around the shoulder and being like, come on, you can do this. I know you can. And it's kicked him up a level instantly. Yeah. One performance has changed the way so many view him. You know, we've always loved this guy and backed him, but I think to see him get that, particularly that older audience on board, I don't know, that felt like a very, very special moment in the room, I gotta say.
It wasn't just for Ozzy, it's the fact that he was doing it in front of everyone. That like, on this stage you did have Axl Rose is there, James Hetfield's there, and then you have all your peers alongside that, like all of these people in the same place, and you are just on that stage in the moment doing it, like not just proving it to the audience but proving it to everyone who wonders who is his kid or whatever. And it's how I feel. I could talk about Yungblud forever, but to see it's the right time to do it on the cycle that he's doing now, because he is the most him that he's ever been. He's not trying to be anyone else. He's not trying to emulate these people. On that stage, he was putting all of him, all of Dom Harrison into this, and knowing that that's right. And it sends shivers, and it's like there's a reason that someone like Ozzy, he doesn't just bring people into his fold because, there's space. Like, you see the footage, he's like, all he cares about, the first thing he says to Dom on that video when Dom's giving him his cross is, have you had your sound check yet?
Yeah.
All he cares about is the tunes.
Yeah, of course.
All he cares about is the music, and then cares about this person as well.
Yeah.
And to do that, and for people to go, he's not my cup of tea, but God, he's absolutely fucking
turned some heads, man. Turned some heads. I mean, there were moments like that through the day that were just so special. I mean, I know, again, we discovered through research and I believe it was Tobias Forge himself who said, "Gotta do Bark of the Moon, man. Gotta do Bark of the Moon." And I think Ozzy was like, "Yeah, absolutely, have a bit of that." Because I think there was maybe a little bit of trepidation with some people when they're picking the covers, like, well, obviously we don't want to step on any toes, and obviously we don't know what his set list is going to be and all this stuff. And I think he was very giving of being like, no, if you want to do an absolute banger, then absolutely go out and nail it. Why not? And also the interesting thing as well was, when you get to the big boys, kind of when we're getting to the business end of the evening, your Guns N' Roses, your Metallica. Yes, we got some hits in there, but the amount of time they dedicated to be like, especially Guns N' Roses, I think they did 3 covers in the end, and it's just like, we're going to absolutely take this moment to tip the hat. They could have done all manner of hits and everyone be like, yep, go away very happy. But no, they were like, no, this is important. We need to actually show how much this means. But they felt like the day was just full of those kind of moments, really.
Yeah, it was just a celebration, like not only of Black Sabbath, but just of everything that's come before them, everything that's come after them, just this whole kind of little world that exists largely because of them. And I think you can't do that without those covers. And I think just being able to put egos aside, like that's a huge part of it, because people love to talk about rock stars having huge egos, and a lot of the time it's true. Like there's definitely truth in it, but that day none of that existed. Like none of those people who stood on that stage had that ego on them. Like it was all about celebrating Ozzy, it was all about celebrating Sabbath, it was all about celebrating something that meant so much to every single one of them. It's rare that you get an occasion like that. Like it's very, very rare that you see a stage full of people who are there for one thing. They're not there to further their own career. They're not there to make it all about them. They're there to just kind of be like, thank you for giving this to us. I genuinely can't think of another occasion where that's happened in quite that way.
I think there was another really interesting point again, and these conversations are going to be coming up in the mag, but we chatted with Joe from Gajira, and I love, he pointed out something that was so interesting, because obviously it's raised an ungodly amount of money for charities, with a lot of local Birmingham charities, Parkinson's charities, absolutely incredible work. I think it's something like £140 million, something like that. Absolutely absurd number. But what he pointed out that I just thought was really interesting is like how that really subverts the notion a lot of people maybe have in their heads of what heavy music is. And it's all dark and scary for your kind of stereotype for your normies, for want of a better phrase. And then to see it be completely flipped on its head and used to do the most good I've seen out of any kind of show like that in such a long time. That's genuinely really special.
Well, a lot of that goes back to even the start of Sabbath, because it's something which you have to talk about the Satanic Panic when you talk about Sabbath. That the song Black Sabbath on the album Black Sabbath by Black Sabbath is one of my favourite, and with everyone's one of their favourite heavy metal songs ever, because it's so scary, it's so dark, it's so foreboding, and it opened the first. I'm like, it's like when people say, imagine showing a Victorian child TikTok. Like, imagine being like 15 in 1970 and you've just come off the back of the Beatles run and you hear that and you're like, well, yeah, we're all gonna fucking die. But like, it's something that Ozzy kept on saying, that it's like, we were hippies, we were part of the hippie movement, and like we're preaching like that, we're talking about like kind of the like we're using this darkness, but we're also kind of making fun of it. We're going, why are you so scared of these like ghouls and goblins and all this that you're making up? Yet in America they were like, oh, you play it backwards, like it will make you do horrible things. And it's like that for the fact that that was at the very beginning, that it was like immediately just like these long-haired, fresh-faced people writing about, you know, the devil and kind of like laughing in his face there, for that to finish with that as well, as you say, you know, that people are just like, there is this perception of metalheads and what it is, and it's all fucking like that actually everyone is just so happy and joyous and wants to help and is about community. It's becomes cliches that it's like, oh, metal's the best like friend group you'll ever have, but it's like, well, it just shows here that all these people from different walks of life did come together and like are proud to have that stamp on it. I like to think, you know, we talk about when it came to Ozzy at that end where he sat on his throne with his eyeliner on. In between the singing songs, he was more John than he was Ozzy in a lot of that. In how he was saying goodbye and like thank you and that. It wasn't because he could have been like full on, you know, like effing and jeffing and trying to be a showman, but he was just like genuine. It's right there is just a man who is proud of what he's done. I think that's what everyone felt there, that it's like we've all got here some way and we all love this music, but in that moment we're just like connected by this.
I mean, that's the moment that gave me chills, I gotta say, because it's like being sat in the stands and like obviously there've been some unbelievable performances through the day. Slayer, I want to particularly shout out, absolutely crushed it. That was unbelievable. But the first actual standing ovation throughout the entire stadium was when that throne rose, as you would expect and as you would hope. Just those moments where he's saying something like, I've been sat up for 7 years or whatever it's been. I think it was something to the effect of, he was like, you don't know how this feels, just like thank you from the bottom of my heart. And it's like, honestly, not a dry eye on the house. It was incredible. And I know I've again, for having spoken to the organisers, it was exactly the same as you might expect side of stage, just grown men in the hardest rock bands you've ever heard of in floods of tears, as it should be. But seeing the joy on his face, man, as well, it was like, God, it was such, I'm going to cry now. It was such a touching moment, man, honestly. Like seeing the entire crowd get behind him and those moments of him trying to stand and all this. He was in his element. And no other way he would rather have done that final show than where it was and how it was set up. It was, amazing.
I do just want to say as well, because I think it's there was pictures again, and obviously with when Sabbath finished in like, when they did the final tour in 2012, Bill Ward wasn't part of it. Like it was Tony, Ozzy, and Geezer, and Bill didn't want to do this. There were pictures of him. He's the same age. He's an 80-year-old man. Yeah. And there were pictures of him after it with his shirt off, and he drummed the fuck out of that show.
It was outrageous.
Like, and again, the fact that it's bringing someone out to do that and pull out those performances again, that it's like, can't be understated just how difficult it is to do these things at that age. The same, like, Tony Iommi continues to make it look effortless.
That man's astounding.
Unbelievable. Like a genius within this. Geezer Butler continues to be that each of them, again, coming back for that one last time to show why this all started again, and to show that, like, the strength that Ozzy has had within this as well to make it to this, and quite clearly as we know now, is that thing, you know, when you've lost someone, you can see that they've held on for something or or whatever, that, you know, the fight slows down. And even
he was quite open about that though, like even again, I think talking on stage, even then, just saying like, this is the thing that's kept me going. I mean, he's been very, very open about that. I think that's largely, to be honest, the reason they put it together in the first place, right? Like, he was clearly very down with the situation he was in, but like it gave him a new lease of life. It really did, and spurred on. And my God, all the good that's come of it, and the amazing celebration of the icon that he was, man. It's absolutely incredible. And yes, to see Sabbath one more time, amazing moment, and amazing for the city of Birmingham too.
Well, again, like, I saw Sabbath 2012 at Download, and again, even that, my main memory of it was just how perfect it was, but also that 2 songs in, Ozzy was already the sweatiest man in the world. Like, he came out just perfect, whatever, and then all of a sudden was just drenched. Yeah. And, you know, toddled around the stage, and like, did look, you know, at that point was a 64-year-old man. Again, it's the fact that these legends are getting to this point, like, and playing for an hour and a half. But then when he sang, it was crystal clear and perfect. Like, and just the joy on his face then, and that's like 13 years ago. Like, and to keep on doing that is just,
it's crazy.
You know, I think we don't realise how blessed we are to have the legends still wanting to do this in the way that they are for the point of entertainment.
Yeah.
Because he was always an entertainer. It was always for the audience. Even the same as, as Maddie was talking about on the Osbournes. He was being himself, but also he knew that he was being entertaining.
Yeah.
He knew what he was doing.
Big time,
Like,
big time.
He knew why, he was going to make people happy by him doing this when he didn't need to. He could have just sat in the corner doing nothing. He could have not made music for the last.
He didn't need to do
years.
anything.
He
That's
didn't-
the magic of it. Like, he literally did not need to step on a stage ever again past, I don't know, 70s. Like, he literally didn't need to do any of it. Like, my first ever metal show was an Ozzy Osbourne show.
Oh, wow.
2010. And he came to Folkestone, Leeds Cliff Hall. And genuinely, the only shows that place ever gets is Dream Boys or like a Michael Jackson tribute or ABBA night. We don't get things. But yeah, this is down the road from.
Are you sure it was really him?
It was. No, I've got pictures.
Yeah, good.
I've got pictures on my Walkman. Yeah, no.
Ozzy spelt with one Z, was it? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. I was 13, 12.
That's crazy.
Queued up outside for 8 hours. Was the only one there, obviously, because why was anyone else
I did
queue
this.
up for 8 hours?
I did the same for a Roller Tomasi show.
Yeah,
So.
I was obviously I need to get there really early. Got there really early. No one else showed up. But I was the youngest there by God knows how much. Was at the barrier, surrounded by people 5 times my age.
Yeah.
And back then I probably only knew 3 or 4 Aussie Black Sabbath songs. I wasn't a big metal fan, but I knew that it was important. I knew that I had to be there. And the people around me never once were why is this kid at the barrier? Why aren't they singing along? The people around me were watching me open mouthed, staring at the stage and loving every second of it. I remember a dad behind me, everyone was doing this, devil horns. I had no idea what they were doing. And this guy just turned to me, he was like, "Hey kid, do this." And I was like, "Okay." And he was like, "That's rock and roll." And I was like, "Okay." Yeah, it was such a formative moment. I'd never seen people with guitars on stage. I'd never seen a drum solo, and having Ozzy introduce that to me was huge. Because what better person to kind of bring you into that world?
That's what it's all about, right there.
Exactly.
That's what it's all about. And it leads nicely on, really, to how I kind of want to start to wrap this up, really, which is talk about the legacy, but also the future legacy in a lot of ways. And, in some ways, there's going to be bands that will appear from now that, we won't meet for many, many years to come, who will end up being inevitably inspired by that scene that he's created there. On a tangible level, let's say, I think there's certain things I'd love to personally see happen to continue that legacy on. From a simple point of view, mentioned Download Festival there earlier, I'm sure the team over there are cooking up something or figuring out some way, whether that's renaming a stage or something, not to put ideas in their heads, but I love that Lemmy statue that Hellfest have over in France. I mean, that would be kind of a cool thing. I'd love to see some of that. I'm sure the city of Birmingham will be doing the same, putting up some kind of statue somewhere, which would make all the sense in the world. But also, I would love to see a return of Ozzfest in some way, shape or form, where we just get to do what it always did, which is celebrate and champion heavy music that is inevitably indebted to the legacy of Ozzy Osbourne. I would love to see something like that happen. But I guess that's going to be the thing that rolls out over the coming years, and I guess even sooner, perhaps, we're going to see where this goes next, where his kind of legacy will keep spanning out to in terms of but that's something that he always achieved through his life. You could see, as we've already said, the kind of web move out and bring more people into the fold, and I guess that's just going to keep continuing on.
I guess it comes from the fact that if there's anything on a basic grassroots level, is that anyone can do this, and I think that anyone can make art their life if they truly want to, and if they find there are people out there waiting to bring what you want to be made to life, and you can live this, and you can find solace in this still, and continue to, because I think you see that there are people who are inspired to pick up a guitar by, the bands of today, but it all stems back to this at the start. And if that's even if it's not directly connected to his name, or someone isn't saying, well, I heard Mr. Crowley, or I heard, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath, and that made me want to do it, that it's all like the roots go back to it, that like the reason that that's still able to happen is because of Ozzy. And as long as there are kids who want to make heavy music, as long as there are kids who are like, be it you make grindcore, be it hardcore, be it like, even though like we're stretching far and wide when you get into like weird like black and deathcore and Nintendo core and that, like it's only there, but like someone somewhere down that line was there because of this. And I think as long as that's there, then that is, you know, that light stays on.
That's it.
Like even if his name's not mentioned, it's like the shadow is there.
The shadow is there is a lovely way.
It's that thing where it's like, you know, when people say like you die twice. You die once when you stop breathing, and you die again when the last person says your name. I genuinely don't think he'll ever die.
No.
Like I don't think there will ever come a point in the future where his name is said for the last time, and like that seems insane. But if you think about the amount of lives he's touched, the amount of stories he's kind of put out in the world, the amount of things that just will always exist because of him, like it's gonna live on forever.
It is when you say that. Sorry, it's that we are. It's just when you this whole conversation, you realise you're talking about one person. And like it does feel mad, and I think that's what a lot of people go, oh well, it's, you know, is it really that big? And it's like, it fucking is. And it's like,
look at the movement it created right there.
You don't take this lightly. I think it's like, you don't big someone up in that way, but like you're so right that like in pop culture, in music, in anything, like Ozzy's, like the name is going to be there. Like even if someone calls their fucking dog Ozzy, like that it's going to go back to
there.
It's going to go like
It's
it's
still
the
there.
associations there, even if they're just like, oh, Black Sabbath, don't know what that is. I just wanted a cute name for my terrier. And it's like, you know, but it's like it's still there, and I think as long as, again, as long as Jack and Kelly are doing things, you know, like as long as
they'll
Sharon's,
carry that torch,
like,
they're 100%.
and then their kids are there, you know, again, just, you know, there was some footage of like even a couple of days before he passed of him playing with his grandchildren. And like there's an amazing one of him being an iPad kid. If you've seen it, that Kelly, but like, oh, it's with headphones on, does the toddler cough as well, and it's just like
it's just so funny.
Even without trying, but like
effortlessly.
But like with those grandkids and then their grandkids and then their grandkids, like even the family name is like,
it's forever.
No, I fully agree. On a light note to finish, just because we keep mentioning how effortlessly funny he is, I would really encourage people to go and look up the short films that he did before. I forget which tour it actually was. I think it was a lot of the Ozzfest tours, but they kept playing him at Back to the Beginning. And it's basically like the beginning of the Oscars. They would superimpose Ozzy into film scenes, into music videos and stuff. So there was a bit of him in the back of the car for Alanis Morissette, Ironic. He was on the bench next to Forrest Gump. He was outside the spaceship on Apollo 13. It's really made me smile in the last couple of days. Go look him up on YouTube. It is an absolute joy. And again, just speaks to the very funny, witty man that he was right to the end. But anyway, I mean, there's no way we could sum up what this man has meant to the scene in this short amount of time, but I think we'll have a good go at least what he means to the wider scene there. Thank you as always for joining me, Jack and Maddie. We'll be back soon with a very new episode of Rock Sound Rundown. Make sure you subscribe over on the YouTube channel. Please do share your own memories of Ozzy down in the YouTube comments, and as I mentioned already, we are working on a wider piece that will be coming in the magazine very soon, so keep an eye out for that. We will see you soon. I've been James Wilson Taylor. Thanks for watching.